I keep wondering what the future of this show is going to hold, but I got to tell you, my mind has been blown by what they've shown us from the past. So, you know what? Let's jump into the Stampede.
Vash! Vash, Vash, Vash! The Stampede!
Maybe I should have made like a Calgary Stampede joke. I don't know.
It is the world's oldest rodeo.
Konnichiwa, minasan.
All right. So I've got my notes on paper this week instead of on the computer. I'm feeling
Ooh.
analog like an old school news reporter, and we'll see how we make it through this. But the first thing I just got to start is with something broad-based. And I'm going to start with you first, if that's okay, Chris, all the way from beautiful Canada, because we're not going to have your wonderful company next week. I'm going to take advantage of you this week. So,
Okay.
how did that birthday flashback hit you, Chris?
It didn't. I don't know. Like,
oh, really? Didn't really hit you any particular way?
No, I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, it's birthday. All right. See, Rem's celebrating their birthday like they're humans. Okay, all right. Like,
but, and reminding us that they're twins and that they're children when this fateful day occurred.
Yeah. So I mean, but there wasn't any kind of like any reaction other than like, oh, look, they're having a birthday party. Okay, cool.
Yeah, their first birthday party.
So for a totally different reaction, let's hear more, Matthew. How did that hit you, the first birthday party?
I got all choked up.
Don't they look a little big for 1-year-olds?
Yeah, yes, they do.
If you think they look a little big for 1-year-olds, if either of you have ever seen the Misfit of Demon King Academy, Anoth Voldegode, who is the Demon Lord, actually goes from being a baby to a full-grown teenager in 2 days. So they're actually like way behind.
That is a growth spurt right there.
That sucks. Yes, but yes. This has been there in the previous incarnations of Trigun. They grew up real fast.
Now, here's another question, and I gotta say that I feel like Matthew might have the actual answer, but Chris, I'm kind of interested at what kind of answer you're going to come up with.
Okay.
Why does Vash have to eat and Knives doesn't?
That's a good question. Well, it basically, they did make mention in there that he's the only one that doesn't do anything, right? Like he's the only one that doesn't. So maybe because he's closer to a human, he needs to have some form of sustenance to keep him going. So that's kind of what I took on it, like why he's the one that's eating, because like if he doesn't at some point eat, maybe he will start dwindling away. Obviously not like immediately, like he could probably go more than, a few days like most like humans can. But I felt like just because he's less like the other plants and more like a human, other than his obvious ability to communicate with them, that was probably why he had to eat. But I don't know if that's the case, but that's kind of what I took.
Matthew, do you have anything to add?
He apparently went quite a while without eating later in the episode. So I think it's more of an attempt to be more human than his brother cares to.
Now, I don't know. I'm pretty sure that you know what I'm talking about when I bring this up, Chris, because we've talked about it before. But I don't know how familiar you are with Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, Matthew. So did you read any of Alan Moore's Swamp Thing?
Nope.
Okay, well, one of the big twists that Alan Moore introduced with Swamp Thing is that it wasn't really Alec Holland. It was just a swamp creature that thought it was Alec Holland and made itself look like him. And like it made lungs, even though it didn't need lungs to breathe with, just because that's what a human body looks like. I feel like Vash is trying to look human and that it's sort of behavior and modeling and that he wants to relate to the humans, but maybe he doesn't really need to eat.
I find that less interesting. Sorry, Alan Moore.
Here's another question for you, though, and I'll start with Matthew. No. I'm going to start with Chris again. Since Vash eats, we know that Vash has to poop, right? I mean, food goes in, food comes out.
In a human's anatomy, yes, but I don't know about a plant man's anatomy. So a plant man, they might just, like Do plants? I guess the only emission from a plant that we know of is like what, like oxygen, right? Like,
Imagine if there were all those scenes. Like you could go back and pretty easily. Every time Vash touches a tank with a plant in it, just add a few little brown blobs floating around in the tank.
I was
Like
about
somebody
to
has
say.
to come out with like a pool skimmer and skim the plant poo out of the tanks when the plants are in there. Is that some behind the scenes Fashion Stampede, Trigun Stampede? What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, plant man fecal matter is probably not something that had crossed my mind at any point of
Wait.
watching this.
That's the name of this episode, Plant Man Fecal Matter. Please continue.
Yeah, I don't think at any point I was watching any part of this episode and thought, I wonder if Vash poops. That never actually crossed my mind. So now I'm trying to like take this in and kind of come up with a really, thoughtful response. And I would say, they didn't, he was locked in that room, right? He was in that room and there wasn't a toilet. So I don't think he does poop. Like I just saw it was just basically a room with a bench. So I don't think he does poop. I
He
think
runs
somehow
pretty fast for a guy who eats and doesn't poop. That's all.
yeah,
I'm
like
say.
I
How
feel
does
like
stay so slender.
yeah, like I feel like he somehow uses all of the energy the food produces and every other bit of it and just probably maybe like reemits it as oxygen, maybe. I don't know. Like he does.
So what are your fecal thoughts over there, Matthew Vandiver?
Well, my initial thought was, maybe the plants are just living inside their own effluvium.
Kind of like meconium. Do you guys know what meconium is?
No.
Isn't that green stuff? Like that green.
Like when a baby is in the womb, their digestive tract still works. They swallow amniotic fluid and they poop out meconium.
Is it like a green? Isn't it like a green goo? Isn't it like
probably? I haven't seen any in a while, man.
I'm
like much more familiar with the name than the color.
I feel like it's a green goo. Like that's why I was like, it's that green goo stuff.
Yeah. So well, keep an eye out for strange globs of green. Keep an eye out for strange globs of green goo around Vash from here on out.
I'm gonna go back and draw in my own little brown floaties in some of those plant tanks. Because I want to picture the guy who has to, like some old broken down humpback guy coming out there smoking a cigarette and just shoveling the poo off the top of the tank with his little skimmer. That's the spin-off show. If they're looking for a way to go it, spin off to the plant poop guy.
The guy's just he's the pool boy, but he's the poop boy.
Okay, that was only our second question. We just spent 7 minutes talking about poop. Can't blame anybody though.
No. I think it's a question we all needed to know, I think. I think it really was.
Did you guys notice that at the birthday party there was like a rose under glass?
A geranium.
Geranium, I'm sorry. The germanium?
Geranium.
I'm not very good at plant names. That's why I called it a rose.
Geranium
it's a lot
Jackson.
easier for me to say than chrysanthemum. Was that there to sort of like symbolize the plants? Like trapped in glass, these beautiful things trapped under glass in this hostile environment?
Sure. I like it.
See, I want to come up with one. You guys keep coming up with stuff. I need to come up with something.
I mean, it might be the way that they were able to throw it back later in the episode when Vash said that Rem grew red geraniums, not germaniums.
Red geraniums. Germanium sounds like something radioactive from a Captain America movie.
Yeah, but it might have been the way that they used that throwback, but it could be right. It could symbolize the fact that, the plants are power plants and they're under glass. It could, yeah.
So I was watching this first birthday party for these twins, and as a parent, Chris, and I'll let you imagine what it's like to be a parent, Matthew. If you had twins, do you think you'd lose track of which one was which when they were little?
Well, I think I would have pulled just the George Foreman. And if you don't know about George Foreman, former heavyweight champion of the world, George Foreman, has 7 children. 6 of them are named George, and his daughter is named Georgina. So I would have just called them George. This is George and George. And so, like, it didn't matter. Like, I've always got the right one because it's always George.
Does that look like it works for you?
Hey, yeah. A personal note, my name is Matt. My brother's name is Adam, so we were called Madam as kids.
Oh, that works well. Were you twins?
No.
Oh, okay. That would
So
make
it's
it even
weird.
better for your friends.
It's tangentially related,
I'd be like, how do you
tertiarily,
know you're
perhaps.
not really Adam? Like once, when you're toddlers all over the place. So all bets are off. Like you can keep them straight when they're babies. And then once they're toddlers, it's like mixing up a bunch of ping pong balls and trying to remember which one was which.
Yes, even they perhaps do not know.
I think some parents maybe write their name on the bottom of their foot with a Sharpie so they know like which one is Toby and which one is Kobe or something like that.
Yeah.
I would just name them the same thing. And the story, going back to that story, the one of the reasons why George Foreman's wife liked that, or said she liked that, is that when she was making dinner, she only had to call for George, and then they would all.
George, I
So
love it. So here's another question, guys. Did your heart get crushed when the source of Vash's guilt is revealed? And like that moment when you realize how he must have felt to find out that he was that unwitting accomplice in the death of all these people he cared about, when he found out that he was the one who made this possible. Even though I kind of know this backstory, like I don't know it all that well, but I know this general idea, it still crushes me to see it on screen this time.
Yeah.
Any impact on you, Chris?
no, no, I don't know. It takes a whole lot for me to get any kind of emotional response out of anything. It does. Like
Sounds like it.
when it comes to unless it's like stupidity, and then I'm going to laugh. I'm going to get lots of enjoyment out of watching stupid things happen. So I just thought it was. I mean, it's one of those character development points where you're like, okay, so this is why he's pushed to the other side and why he's fighting so hard, because he does have that guilt. And so it makes his character a sympathetic character. Like he's already a sympathetic character because clearly he's like the one plant fighting against all the other plants. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but it increases the sympathy for him. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a really strong character development point. It builds on who he is as a character. But as far as me getting emotional over it, no.
And I don't know. I don't know if I don't know if I've ever pointed it out, but really, the reason it hits me so hard, is because I have baggage from the previous incarnations of the show.
Yeah, well, it just hit me hard as just the kind of person I am and the kind of story that really connects to me. And when I see somebody, it probably all goes back to the first time I read Ender's Game, and I'm not going to spoil the ending of Ender's Game, but when I do see a character feel guilt for something they didn't realize they were doing, something about that just makes me have so much like like empathy probably not sympathy. I don't think I've ever been in that situation, but I feel like I have, and it's like just the pain that I know is going to be with them forever and ever. Like I feel that all at once. Maybe I'm just a really empathic person.
Mm.
I don't know, but it hits me hard, even though I know it's there.
I have caused trouble without meaning to, and felt really bad about it.
The independents are plants that sort of spawn spontaneously. Like they just kind of come up on their own. They weren't engineered. They weren't created on purpose. So, Matthew, do you think that the creation of an independent could be considered almost something like immaculate conception?
I don't know if I can say without going into theories and such from the manga.
Well, just in general, though, I mean, we've got all these religious themes going through the story. I think
Oh
a
yeah,
pretty good argument could be.
it's definitely why it's there. Yes, that's definitely why it's there, with Night Owl being Catholic and all that.
And you've said a few times that Vash is kind of like space Jesus, right? So
Yeah,
this is just
yeah.
another bit of evidence for that. I mean, do you kind of see it that way, Chris? You see that as sort of a parallel to the Immaculate Conception, the creation of independence?
I think you can definitely draw that parallel pretty easily, because you've got these these beings that aren't like they're not humans, but they're not the plants that are floating around in the big glass water tubes. Like they're not the same, right? So it's like
Yeah,
it's almost like a new species that's supposed to kind of bring both of them together, right? Which
yeah.
you can draw that parallel. So I think that's I think you can see it.
Can I toy with a little childish analogy here, Matthew? I want to see what you think about it.
I don't know if we've done too much poop already.
Well, there's no poop in this one, but there are midichlorians.
Oh God. Okay, go.
Because I'm looking here and I'm thinking like Vash is Anakin and Knives is Darth Vader. And they don't have a father, they're pure midichlorians. But instead of starting out one way and becoming another, they were split from the beginning. Because everybody knows Anakin pooped and Darth Vader didn't, because he was in that suit all the time.
How did this get pulled back to poop? How somehow this got brought back to poop? I always assumed that Vader. We saw that the top part of his suit was what kept him alive, right? So he had to keep the top part of the suit on. He had to keep the mask, the chest plate. Was missing an arm. He had no legs. We got that, but it didn't mean he couldn't take the bottom of the suit off.
Okay, I got another question now. Matthew, how did Clone Wars era Darth Maul poop? Because he had a robot butt, right?
Yeah, yes. I don't know. How do people you see in the real world who are only who don't have any of that? How do they do it?
I'm not going to ask. It'd be kind of rude to ask a real person, but somebody in Star Wars, I'll ask them all day long.
It's possible. That's all I know. It's possible.
If I ever meet Dave Filoni, what'd be great is if I went to like a silent auction, I paid some ridiculous amount of money, like $15,000, to ask Dave Filoni one question, Star Wars related. It could be anything I want, and he has to answer. And I would ask, how did Clone Wars era Darth Maul poop, Mr. Filoni?
I bet you he wouldn't have heard that one. I bet you that would be one that would be like, I don't really have an answer. I've never been prepared for that question ever. I feel like that would be his response.
Disney, remove that man.
Yeah. Dragged out. But I paid so much money for the. No, get going.
This is as bad as that time Steranko punched Chris.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Well, you see, you had a cloaca installed.
Oh. yeah, almost getting punched by Jim Steranko, one of the highlights of my life.
So I'm going to reverse our normal question here, Matthew. Was there any part in this episode that you didn't cry?
Several. Actually, I didn't fully tear up, but I got choked up quite a few times.
I was watching this, and from the get-go with the birthday cake, I thought, okay, so this is another one of those where Matthew's going to lose it in the beginning, and she's not going to be able to regain his composure because I keep going back to it. So you were able to hold strong, huh? Because I got misty-eyed during this one.
The hardest part was Rem's final message.
Yeah, that was pretty tough.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to go ahead and predict here, Chris. I'm going to predict you did not cry.
That is a correct prediction. Yes, I did. But you know what? You did bring up Rem, and they did something in this that I liked how they I don't know if it was intentional or what, but when they found all kinds of stuff about Rem, but they made that one they just made a throw off reference. They never found anything about her. So I have a feeling that's foreshadowing. I don't know. So what do you think?
I think that's not bad. Yeah. What do you think, Matthew?
I seem to not really be doing that right now.
Okay, good. I'm not alone because I was thinking ahead to the next question. Is Rem the real hero of the story?
Yes, no.
I would almost lean to say no because I feel like this might have if we go on the argument of nature versus nurture, I feel like something went wrong in the nurture stage with Knives.
Yeah.
So I don't know. She might end up being actually the villain.
Oh, I never even thought of it in that way.
Just because of her actions, well intentioned as they are, the road to hell and all that. Yeah, things did go kind of wrong.
Right, and maybe she shared a little, maybe she shared a little too much favoritism to Vash, and she unintentionally, and that kind of set Knives down the wrong path. So maybe she's the villain.
Now,
maybe she's the Emperor to Vader. How about that?
Oh, she's the Emperor, man, and that makes Roberto De Niro Jar Jar. So we mentioned it before that they talked about Vash is a plant who doesn't make anything. But when I was feeling kind of sappy watching the episode, I wrote down in my notes, Vash, it's not true that Vash doesn't produce anything. Vash produces love and maybe harmony. What do you think? Is that the big
That is way too sappy. That
love
is
is the big
so
element, right?
sappy.
I totally,
Wow.
I totally said Vash produces love when I saw the show with my friends the other day.
Nice. We said the same thing, Matthew.
Oh no. Oh
And
god.
groans from Chris.
Oh. Oh god.
What
Yes,
about
definitely groans.
Love
Yes.
and peace.
what about harmony? Like maybe Vash produces like harmony eventually between plants and humans in a nice way to be peacefully coexistent without enslaving the plants. Maybe humans and plants get to be more like one another, and that's his role. There's a lot of things he might end up producing, but I think we're going to come back to finding out what he really produces is really important. And it's love.
I hope it was like he finally snaps and he produces mass amounts of violence. Like that's what I'm.
He's like Zeitgeist from Deadpool 2.
Yeah, he was just like trying to do it the right way. Then he's like, nope, I can't do this anymore. I'm just taking everybody out. And we're all going down in a giant ball of flame.
Now, personally, I consider this a pretty exposition heavy episode. It gave us the red jacket, it explained what actually went down, it's key to the whole story, and it all takes place pretty quickly. How do you guys feel about exposition heavy episodes? Because I'm actually kind of a sucker for them. I really like them. Are you a fan, Chris, or do you prefer more like stretch it out?
Uh no, I like when I prefer something that's going to be like quick to the point, explained, boom, let me build that character point where you need to build it, move on to the greater story. I kind of want to stay away from something that doesn't give, like a story that doesn't give you anything. It only gives you tiny little tiny blips, and it just takes like forever to kind of get the picture. I'd rather have it just like, an episode like this where it's boom, it's thrown in your face. You get a whole bunch of you know greater understanding of the character development, why they are the way they are, and then it helps you understand what you've already watched and what you're going to see. Like I like getting that in a big piece like that, as opposed to dripping me little bits of a character's background and reasoning and all that. So yeah, no, like I would prefer like this form of storytelling, I'd say.
Matthew?
I like it when they drip little bits and then give you a well-timed uh forgotten the term you used for this one, Bruce.
Oh, the exposition, just
exposition
exposition
backstory.
heavy.
Yeah. Like in the original Trigun series, I love how they dropped bits and pieces, and then in episode 17 they gave you the Project Seeds backstory. That's the way I like it done.
Okay, yeah. Well, I really enjoyed this episode, but I was also watching it thinking a lot of shows would give us this a little bit at a time. I'm thinking more like the way that things come out a little bit at a time in something like Full Metal Alchemist versus Attack on Titan loves the exposition heavy episodes where
Yeah.
you think the world is one way, you have an episode where the world is totally different until the next big episode like that. So I'm a fan.
Well, I feel like in Attack on Titan, they do that, but it does. The world isn't different. It changes the way you perceive the world, but nothing
Yeah.
actually changes, right? And
Absolutely, excellent point.
like in a case like that, yeah, your perception of how the world kind of works is because you've seen it from a specific, and usually in Attack on Titan, you see it from a specific viewpoint, right? Like the like you see it from, okay, you've seen it from Aaron's, now you see it from Mikasa's, now you see it from like whoever, right? um the Marlians, you know what I mean? Like you see it from all, like, and so you see the world, like you see that the world isn't black and white, right? And I think that's why Attack on Titan does that, because you see the world one way, then it changes, your perception kind of changes with another person's viewpoint, and then you get another one, you see that you have this multi-layered world where nothing is black and white and there's tons of gray. So like that is that like in my opinion, like that's really good storytelling is what that is.
I'll agree. I think it was a bad idea for them to put in that one clip of modern Vash in the episode.
Yeah, that did seem like to almost well, maybe they're trying to pull you back into the main timeline for the next episode, but yeah, it was
Yeah,
almost jarring when you're lost in the
poorly
past.
placed. So, and confused a lot of
Yeah,
people
like
from
if yeah,
reaction
like
videos.
if you would have had if you would have just like skipped that, what was it, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, you wouldn't have missed anything. Like it didn't him looking at his arm didn't do anything to the story. Like
Yeah.
it didn't change anything. You got the story, you got the back, it was the background, that quick flip to the present, and then background,
Do
right?
you
And it
think
was like, why did
Yeah.
you, like, there was no reason for that little blip.
do you think they explain what happened to his arm in the first 12 episodes, Matthew?
Yeah. Next episode.
You think so? That's kind of
Next
what I thought they
episode.
were setting up when you looked
Yeah.
at it.
I predict the next episode's going to be a rough one.
I bet it won't be too rough for Chris while he's on Broadway in Nashville, right?
I think
You
I'll be
see,
okay. I think I'm
me,
gonna be okay with
me and
it.
Matthew are going to be talking about poop again, probably, and you're going to be having fun in Nashville.
Yes, I'll tell you this: what I won't be doing is talking about cartoon character poop. That won't be.
You say that
That won't be on.
now.
Well, anything could happen. So
Who knows what the next episode's going to be about? And of course, it's a big week next week, so enjoy your vacation. When you come back, we're going to have so much to talk about, Chris, with Attack on Titan coming back, and then the Swordsmith Village movie will have been out in theaters in North America by the time you get back. So there'll be all kinds of stuff to tackle, but I just want to tell everybody I'm proud of you for watching anime, and I'll talk to you again soon.
I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who supports the channel on Patreon. It really means a lot to me. If you might be interested in Patreon perks like early access to videos, uncut reaction videos, ad-free videos, and the opportunity to vote on which anime will be covered in the future, then click on the link in the video description. Thank you.